Then we can move to the advanced report creation. But before that, just 1 or 2 slides on the reporting. So the delivered report which Workday has given, the standard reports and the express reports which are given by Workday. So standard reports which are given by Workday are mostly created with the same functionality of Report Writer, which we will be using to create the custom reports. And there are other reports as well, which are called as express reports. So the express reports are created using the different terminology in Workday, maybe a SQL query or something in the background which they have not opened up to us, and those reports. There's a main difference between these standard reports and express reports. Because that's where the picture comes in, and the express reports are not clonable. So you cannot just clone the express reports, they're only for you to run. You can have them run, see their output, but you cannot clone those reports, because cloning then again would enable you to have it edited and cloned in your own way. But since that terminology that they have used to create the express reports is not yet open to the customers or the partners, so the express reports are not clonable, the normal standard reports. And we clone standard reports. If I just go here. So here you would also see some tasks. Copy standard report to custom report to usually clone the reports. But if you want to take a look at all these standard reports given by Workday, you can run this report - Workday standard report. And here you can just mention the categories, if any. It's not a required prompt, but if you want to mention any categories, you can mention any categories here and, based on that worker data or former worker data history, anything you want. So, based on that, all these reports will come up here for you. So here you can see if a report type is of report writer, that means this is the report which can be cloned. All the reports can be scheduled, whether it's a special report. So if you want to just take the Workday report and utilize it for your scheduling, you don't want to create a report, and that should be the ideal way as well, because if something is available in Workday, why to create your own report? So if something is already available that can be used, then you should use it. If it is only for scheduling, that also you can do. But if that needs clone, you want to clone and maybe add your fields and want to remove some fields from the delivered one, then you can do the cloning of these reports. So the ones with the report writer maximum of the report. It's not 100% true that every report writer report will be clonable, but most of the reports in the report writer category are clonable, and once you create the report, you clone it. You will be on the same page which we will be using to create the custom reports, because that is the terminology which is opened for normal platform, the worker, normal partners, and the customers to use the report writer tool to create the reports. But the category where the type is espresso, those reports can also be scheduled, but they cannot be cloned. They can just be used to run it, schedule it, and that's it. You cannot clone and make your own by doing that. So these are some of the standard reports which are given by Workday. That's a quick quiz. Let's go through it, not take more than 5 minutes. So, if any one of you can go ahead with, what is the data source, just in general, whatever you have understood, and from your past experience as well, and from the training that we had, what do you understand from a data source? It's a central repository where all the data is available. In Workday, data sources where all the data is available and especially used for reporting. Just do we have? 1. No 2. Standard and index. Next, can you remind us like what is indexed? is so when you choose the data source. So now, when you run a data source report in Workday, the data sources report, you will get an options to all see all the data sources. Now the data sources, given by what they are, of basically two types, standard and index. The index has come in recent years, and the main difference between the standard and the index report is that Workday has now created some data sources with an enhanced feature of RDBMS, and you can see where you can quickly, just the normal indexing, what you understand with normal indexing, if a book with index and a book without index. So if you have index, you can see the topics with the page number and you can easily go straight away to that. So it's like searching for the resources, searching for the data inside the data source has become easier, or quite becomes easier when you are using index data source rather than a standard data source. So from a performance perspective it helps a lot. And then there comes some restrictions to the index data sources where you would have to manage with the population what it is, so not every version of the indexed. Every version of standard data source you have as an index version. So some of the resources you have an index version. But it has a population restriction as well. So whether you see your index data sources is meeting the requirements of the population, then you are good to use the index data source. So, and it only makes a difference when you have a subsequent amount of data. Let's say you have 50,000 workers, 1 lakh workers in your organization. Your report is complex. You have too many calculated fields. You have complex filters. So then it kind of adds up and then gives you that performance features which you are looking for. Otherwise, if you say I'm using an index data source for a 5,000 worker report and it's a straightforward index report and I'm just using the standard data source with the same amount of population, I'm not seeing any difference in running, so you won't feel the difference. The difference will only be feelable when you have a bigger amount of population. Complexities including in there. So when you have an index data source, there are also fields which are indexed in nature, which gets changed, so you can still use non-indexed fields. But while they have indexed the data sources, they have also indexed the report fields. First of all, your first approach should be to use an index data source, if you think that the population that you are looking for you can find in an index data source. Because, let's say, from current perspective, you have to design an integration. You are thinking that I only have 20 fields and the filters are, let's say, 7. 8 rows of filters are there and I have some normal amount of calculated field. But down the line, if you see, from 5 years from now, your employee count, your contingent worker count is going to increase the complexities. You know business, every other day they come up with the changes, and then the complexity gets increased. So from today's perspective it might not feel good, but from a scalable perspective, if you think so always, if you have an option for what population you are looking for and if you have an index data source available to you, then it is highly recommended, even some part of the reviews as well. Companies do say, if your reviewer is quite strict, they would say, okay, there is a standard, there is an index data source available for the same population that you are looking for, then why don't you use the index data source? So the first thing that if you have something available, then use the indexed one first. If not, then you can go to a standard one. Okay. The next question is, can we change the data source of the report once it is created? True or false? No, we cannot change. So you can change. You cannot, we cannot change. No, we can change. Oh, we can change. Oh, okay, okay. I thought only business objects can be changed. Data source cannot be changed. No, no, business objects, of course, cannot be changed. So your business object? Because you don't get to choose your business object when you are creating your report. But you do get to choose the data source, and since your primary business object is attached to your data source. So if you are changing your data source, your business object automatically change. But okay, when we say that we need to change the address of the report, it comes with the conditions that you can only change the data source if the next data source or the other data source that you are choosing are sharing the same business object. So if you are going from all workers to indexed workers, or if you are going from all workers to all HCM workers, so until and unless your business object is same, your primary business object is same for the data source. Yes, you can change the data source, and this makes sense as well. Because if you have the same business object and if they have allowed to change the data sources, even though the business object is not same, then all your cal fields are going to fail, because those were created considering the primary business object and now you have changed the data source.